goal is to kind of stay on top of it, because if we don't, then these things become aged, and that really is not a good thing from the town's financial perspective, is that these aged bills on the account. So what we'll do is, the board has a very detailed policy concerning ambulance billing and ambulance write-offs. There's actually a time frame in there, and we'll bring these things before the board on a fairly regular basis. I don't think it's realistic to expect that we're gonna achieve 100% collection on every account that's out there. I think we need to put forth a reasonable and solid effort, and come before you when we've got no other alternative.
Greg, getting back to this, the area that's supposed to be notarized.
Yes, if you sign it,
Yeah.
and the next time you're in the office, we'll go down and visit with the notary.
Okay. Okay, we have a motion.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I move to write off the following ambulance bill in accordance to Hill-Burton standards. Incident number NR 081906, run number 20826 for $98.40.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Yule, second by Mr. O'Leary. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Next item is, town on land, municipal review, continuing policy review. Thank you for, sending me that spreadsheet. And I immediately got a request from the Financial Advisory Committee, or a member, I should say.
Great.
For it. Want to start with the, policy? Is that something you drafted up?
Yeah, this is just something very simple, straightforward, and proposed one of two changes, depending upon the wishes of the board, the majority of the board. And basically, it's keeping the current policy intact under provision 7.22, which is provisions applicable to the sale of tax foreclosure property. Current policy states the minimum sale price of tax foreclosure property shall be its current assessed value. The proposed change is relatively simple. I'm inserting the word targeted. So again, the proposed change would be the targeted minimum sale price of tax foreclosure property shall be its current assessed value. So it's a target that we're trying to achieve. And then inserting another sentence. The board, by majority vote, may sell it for less than its assessed value if deemed to be in the town's interest at that time. Or, if the town isn't comfortable, if the board isn't comfortable with that, a 4/5 vote, which means 4 out of the 5 of us would have to sell it for less than assessed value, which in fact would be a supermajority. And to me, it just provides this board with the opportunity to get some of these smaller parcels back on the tax rolls where they belong, rather than us being the biggest landowner in town.
There's been some comments on occasion, it would be better off just giving the property to somebody.
I might have said that, yeah.
Right.
Points, I probably agree with that.
Right, because, if it's sitting there doing nothing, we collect taxes on it, In this proposal here, you talk about, an amount less than its assessed value,
Which could be $1.
which would be $1. That's your information.
Right.
Not something, not setting some percentage that you
No.
know,
As I said, there's a parcel diagonally across the street from me that there's no good reason for my neighbor over there to purchase it, because there isn't any useful purpose for it, other than, we don't have a use, the town doesn't have a use, the other abutters wouldn't necessarily, there's a paper street that goes right through it, well, why bother? So to me, I'd rather have them incorporated into their parcel, enhance their plot, and then move on.
the paper street.
And assess, no, they don't happen.
Yeah, right, right, I
But,
know it.
I mean, that's just a specific incident, that's, and
There's several of
there's
those.
dozens and
Yeah.
dozens of those around town. And again, for us to go out and solicit interest in it, and then say you have to pay the assessed value on these things, when really, the assessed value isn't reflective of the fair market value of the parcel, because they're not buildable, they're not, of any use other than to enhance someone's current existing lot by expanding the number of square footage, the amount of square footage. that they-
My sense is that this board seems to be in support of the idea of disposing of property for less than assessed value, given its appropriate set of conditions. So I guess really, if that's the case, the discussion should center around whether it should be a simple or a supermajority. Mr. Dean.
I can live with either one of these proposals. I believe Steve and I were the two of the five that voted against the change when the change
Oh,
was
is that
made.
right?
Yeah. I can
We
live.
welcome the other three aboard here.
Right. I can live with either one. I just want to say for the record, I'll never give a piece of property away. I mean, I may lower the fee quite a bit, substantially, but I will not give it away. But now, I can live with either one, and I believe before we had majority vote, but I can go with whatever the board wants to do.
I just threw that other
Yeah.
one in there,
No,
and
no,
again,
I understand, Steve. I'm
getting
just
back
saying,
to the.
however the board feels, I can live with either one.
Was there a policy that preceded this, or was this just?
I think the policy that preceded it was more or less what's being proposed here, and what caused this to occur, I believe, was concern that a majority of the board could act favorably on a request to purchase a piece of town-owned land for, some people thought political reasons, to benefit someone who may have been connected with the majority of the members of the board. I mean, there's all these clandestine activities that were being bantied about, which was not necessarily true, but again, as we talked before, people were questioning, I just bought, 3,500 square feet for $5,000, and these people last year purchased 8,000 square feet for $2,000. How come I paid more? And, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Which is why I proposed the fourth fifth. If it's going to happen, and I tend to lean towards the fourth fifth, because for the most part, the sale of town-owned land is unanimous, generally. But a supermajority would make a clear statement by the board that we believe it's in the town's best interest to get it back on the tax rolls, regardless of who the people are gonna be.
And sort of safeguard against those other issues that may have been there
Other
in the
issues
past.
where a simple majority may be able to be achieved, and the perception
I think,
not be
I'm in
misunderstood.
support of the four-fifths. I think it actually protects the board.
Yeah, I agree.
Right.
I said I can go with either one.
I have a few thoughts on it, I just jotted it down, and I'll read what I jotted down. And they're just thoughts, I don't have a final opinion on this either way, but it says town's interest. To me, that's subjective, maybe.
Always is.
Right?
Yep.
Should it be town's best interest, but I guess that's subjective as well. It just seems too ambiguous to me at this moment. I don't know if there's a way to take out subjectivity and
Is
from
most of
that.
this tied to the financial benefit?
Well, I would say there's a financial benefit whereby, no, not, there's a financial benefit and a public health interest generally, for the two. In other words, some people need adjacent parcels for public health interest in relation to septic systems, things of that nature, whereby we've sold town-owned land to an abutter so that they could put in a legitimate septic system for public health reasons. So there's public health and getting it back on the tax rolls, which is financial. So if the majority of the board, and supposing for a supermajority, believes that it's in the town's interest, whether it's in its best interest or not, but it's in the town's interest to get it back on the tax rolls and sell it, the board will do it.
I think the primary purpose is, we're talking about landlocked pieces of property that we just.
Not necessarily.
Or we just talking about any
Some of
property.
these have frontage. A lot of the lots that we own have frontage, but they aren't buildable.
They're not buildable, right.
They
I mean,
don't have sufficient square footage, or they're wet, or partially wet.
I mean, part of it, to me, is that it leaves the town vulnerable during good times by a board beyond our time, okay, can be influenced either knowingly or unknowingly by a special interest group.
Well,
And
We can change it.
it's a policy that can be changed, and as it's written, if we approve the 4/5, you sort of safeguard against some of that from happening.
By the way, this policy that we currently have, by majority vote, we can waive policy and sell it, right now,
Okay.
right now.
So the future makeup of the board doesn't really matter.
No, because it can be changed.
Is it,
So,
A
and
future
again, if we
board can
oppose the
make a change.
4/5, we oppose the
They can just
4/5.
do away with any
If
policy.
If we oppose the 4/5,
Right.
we oppose the 4/5 as a policy, matter of policy, and a future board decides to waive that and make it a simple majority, then it's a little more
Well, I guess-
transparent as to what their method, or what
And
their
I mean, I guess
motive
if
may
we're
be.
doing this, they can do the reverse.
Right.
So,
Right.
so,
Future board,
but at
we
least,
could turn it around next year.
right, and at least we'll be on record for making it more.
Yeah, and I think it's pretty obvious what we're trying to do. We're trying to get properties back on the tax roll,
Right.
right, for the benefit of the town.
Well,
So anyway, I would propose, Mr. Chairman, that our next meeting, we, go with the 4/5 proposal, as a first reading, and then, move forward from there.
Sal, can I say we can share that on our agenda? Now, the 17th versus
The 18th.
the 18th. Okay, next item on our agenda is the are we gonna do anything on the municipal review at this point, Fred, or?
No, but I do wish to, discuss with the board a matter related to, purchase and sale of land in executive session. Not specifically to the
Town administrator.
Never mind, I'm gonna, go to the script, and I'd like to just kind of go to number 6, 7, and 8 first, which are items that are follow-up actions from the meeting on the 13th. They are, report on the meals and lodging taxes, the board receives information concerning potential revenues on the meals tax. However, there was a question about whether the town would share or enjoy a benefit as a result of adoption of the room occupancy tax. The original versions of the legislation, it included a percentage of money that would be collected by communities that have hotels and motels, and that amount would be put into a pool, and that the pool money would be distributed to communities like North Reading that do not have local lodging facilities. Unfortunately, we learned this language, which I think was very good, did not get incorporated into the legislation. So if you do decide to go forward with the adoption of the meals and lodging taxes, but please keep in mind that the lodging tax will have no immediate financial benefit to the town. However, in the future, it may very well have that as a benefit.
Is this, can this be adopted, in a future year under the legislation?
Yes.
It can.
You could also adopt it now for some date in the future if it ever becomes applicable.
But there's no time on it.
No, there's not. There's not a window that opens and closes.
Next,
It's unfortunate that the legislature decided to change that, and I'm surprised that I thought there was sufficient support in the legislature because of the suburban and rural representatives were looking to ensure that there was some sort of benefit as a result of the reduction in state aid to their communities by imposing these new lodging and meals taxes that would be shared by everybody. So it's extremely unfortunate that the legislature in their wisdom decided to exclude those communities, and I'm surprised that,
well, the meals tax is.
I know the meals tax, but the lodging
The
tax,
lodging
and again, the lodging tax, in primarily the urban areas that have the big hotels, what's close proximity to major thoroughfares, and the rest of the Commonwealth is left out. Build a hotel, but that being said, I thought that was a good provision and a good compromise, and it's unfortunate that they decided to exclude that.
And there's not really